You got to accept my friend request on Facebook too, so that way.
Oh, let me go. You know what? This is the most I ever been on Facebook. Let me see. Doing this. You know what? This is the most
Okay, we are live. We will give it a few moments to build.
Oh, this is on Facebook. Oh, this is current. They can see it.
Yeah, it's on. Hold on. I know currently we are on YouTube. Let me see if it got on.
Oh, okay. I wish I had known. I would have did like a flyer to tell people.
Yes, currently we are live on Ballroom Throwbacks on YouTube, and we're live on the Ballroom Throwbacks page on Facebook.
Oh, wow. Okay. God, I wish I had known.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. We are live. While you are coming on, everyone, good evening. Happy Tuesday. Been a minute since I've been on live, but I told you I was going to be getting back into it, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce a longtime friend, a fellow ballroom participant, actor, singer, and many other things we could add to the list. Thank you, Ms. Lawrence, for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me. This is an honor.
Well, it's an honor to talk to you, especially for everything we're going to talk about. Where do we begin? Okay, before we get into everything, let's give a little background to the people that may not know Miss Lawrence or may not know Miss Lawrence's background. How did Miss Lawrence come to be? I know that a lot of people first time seeing you was on Real Housewives of Atlanta, but how did Miss Lawrence end up there? How did Miss Lawrence become Miss Lawrence? Like, tell them a little bit about that.
People started calling me Miss Lawrence when I was in the beauty industry early on in my career as a beauty professional before I retired. But I'm from the South, born and raised in Atlanta. I always tell people I'm the original Peach. Later became the original Atlanta mother, if you will, in my own right. But there was several mothers before me. But I was, people calling me Miss Lawrence came from women's culture, the culture of women. Me being a hairstylist, a confidant, a doctor, the listening ear to so many of my clients when I was a hairstylist. And because I've always extracted and borrowed from women's culture, just in my day-to-day presentation and imagery of who I was, they just started calling me Miss Lawrence. And so being a hairstylist, how I got into being a hairstylist, when I was a child, I always wanted to be a part of the arts. I always loved singing and dancing. And, when I was in high school, I was in performing arts. I was, taking drama classes and all of that. However, I'm an 80s baby. So that means in the late 90s, late 90s, people walking around like myself, just unafraid to be gender fluid was not popular and it was not broadly accepted. However, I never altered who I was because of that. I did, however, go and just kind of find my own pockets and own safe spaces where I could exist and be celebrated and feel comfortable. And so I shied away from this idea that I had a space in performing arts, being a singer or possibly ever becoming an actor or professional dancer. And I abandoned that part of myself. I abandoned that gift. And I got into the beauty industry because I was always fascinated when I would go to the salons with my mother and my sister and see the transformation, how they looked and how they felt when they left. And I got into that. I wanted to explore that. And it was there that I found that the beauty industry is such an affirming and freeing space. You literally can be whoever you want to be from day to day, you know. And it was there that I found exactly who I was. And it was through self-exploration. And as time went on, I garnered a very wide range of clients and clientele. So much so that I probably like in the early 2000s, I became friends first with my dear friend Sheree Whitfield of Real Housewives of Atlanta. And I wasn't even doing her hair then. We were just good girlfriends. She owned a boutique here in Atlanta that I would shop at. And I think she would gag because I would go in there and I would spend coins. And for a long time, she thought that I was a stylist, like a fashion stylist. She thought I was coming in there to shop for like a client. And until one day I asked her for a dressing room. And then she's like, oh wait, this is your stuff? I was like, yeah. So we became friends based off of that, you know. Mm-hmm. And when the whole Housewives of Atlanta thing came about, she asked me to be a part of it with her. She asked me to come on there and be her hairstylist. I'm like, okay, whatever, fine. I'm just doing your hair on there. No, nobody knew that show would do what it did. So I tell people all the time, I was minding my business, doing what I love, and, you know, being in service. And that is the thing that led me to where I am now. But before I get too deep into that, I have to go all the way back when I can't remember the year or the era, but I was introduced to Chosen Family and Ballroom via my dear sister, Raquel, founding mother, Balenciaga. She was a client at a salon that I worked at, called Vibes Hair Salon in Atlanta, or Escape Hair Salon. And I would always see her, she was always so sickening and lovely. I didn't know her tea, I didn't know nothing. And my gay mother at the time, Darnell, she was like, I'm gonna take you to the Monday night show. I was like, what is the Monday night show? He was like, you never been to? I was like, no. You know, I didn't know any of this. I always hung around straight people when I was younger. I always hung around, because I was a hairstylist, and all the girls, the straight girls lived, and they dope boyfriends, everybody lived. So that was where I hung out at. And so my mother at the time, Darnell, took me to the Monday night show, and I'm watching the show, and I see Raquel, and he's like, that's who be at the salon. I was like, no, I said, you are a motherfucking lie. He's like, no, that is Raquel. I was like, oh my God. So anyway, fast forward, I got offered to compete in a really, really, really big hair show, the Bronner Brother Hair Battle Royale in 2005. And I asked Raquel at the salon, would she be one of my models, you know, and help me with my presentation that I was going to do. And she said yes. She's always very, very, very quiet. She was not a woman of a lot of words, but later learned she was a woman of many words.
Observer.
Yeah, she's an observer. And she ain't like me at first, right? She couldn't, because I was a hood rat. People don't know that, but I was a real hood rat back then, honey. I was in Juicy Couture sweatsuits, and I would booty shake in the salon, or I would carry, and she just would cringe every time I came around. And so anyway, I approached her about helping me with my hair show and my competition. She said yes. And from that, so a part of her compensation, she asked would I, could we borrow the services? So that's how I started doing Raquel's hair back then. And I remember it was really late one night, and she's like, I really need you to do my hair for something, or help me with my hair for something. I was like, okay. I was tired, but I couldn't tell her no, because she had showed up and showed out for me. So I went to the salon, we met, I did her hair, it was lovely, all that kind of stuff. And my brother Yancey, he was there too. I think he did most of it, whatever. And it was, come to find out, so I go to this event with her, and it was the 5,000, what she won 5,000 for face. I had no idea where I was at. I was like, girl, what is going on in here, bitch? But I was fascinated. I was fascinated at the edification that these people was giving everybody that hit that stage. The affirmment. I was drawn. It was captivating.
So you was part of that. So you was part of that historical moment with her winning.
I was there, honey. I was there. I was a part of it. Yes, Lisa Ray was on the panel. I was there.
Right.
And I think that was my first ball. And then I did her hair again for another ball. I forget which ball it was, but I remember she got called off the panel to battle Coco Chanel down here. I remember that because I had done her hair after that. And so that was my introduction to ballroom. Still didn't fully get it. And Raquel is not one that's gonna break it all down. And she was like, "Child, just come," you know. So I would go, and then one day I got the courage to walk, got chopped because I didn't know what the hell I was. I was like,
what did you walk?
I called myself walking best dressed because at that time I didn't know ballroom best dressed. I just knew that I was, I love fashion and I love putting on clothes, and I was always in a label or something, but I didn't know the difference between ballroom best dressed and just everyday serving, you know. So Raquel, I said, I think I want to watch. She said, go do it, you know. So I went out there, how did they chop me? I could not figure out why. So I said, okay, well, I'll try again. I went again. I forgot what ball, but I did it again. And the biggest lesson this was the first moment that I learned that it's a difference to this art form in terms of how you present in real life outside, and then to be ballroom done is a totally separate thing. So I can't remember whose ball it was, but I remember Raquel was on the panel. Stuart Ebony was on the panel. And I remember I had this Dolce & Gabbana coat on. Like I had on a whole Dolce thing, and I had these boots on, these knee-high boots. I think they might've been Blahnik or something. And I'm like, bitch, I know I'm done. And this is when I first met who I now call a brother, Latel. You know, you remember Latel? Latel, because Latel, he walked that same night. And Stuart chopped me. And I was like, yeah, bitch, I know I look good. So Raquel asked him, why did he chop me? And he said her shoes look worn. And I'm looking like, bitch, these are blonde. What does he mean? And that is when I said, okay, so that is what made me start to study other people that walk that category. My husband slash brother, whatever, Mark Tishi at the time was Mark Milan. He was walking around during that time and all of that. It wasn't a lot of female figures down here that was walking that category, but I was told to study people like my sister Jamie Balenciaga, Christian, my dear sister Christian Balenciaga. And so then I kept trying, and then once I kind of got it a little bit, I would still get chopped, but once I kind of got it, that is when Raquel introduced me to the house of Balenciaga.
So message and word to the wise. Instead of you letting the chops discourage you, you let it fuel you to keep on coming back till you got it right.
That's it. And honey,
just a message for everyone out there that, you know, it doesn't break you. So
it does not. It builds you.
A couple things I want to go back to that you said, because I wanted to comment when you said that, you know, that you was always different, so you shied away from a lot of your talents. I want to say that a lot of people I know that are very talented, they have similar stories to growing up and being gay, being different, realizing that they not realizing or realizing they may be trans or want to be trans, that has a lot of hidden talents, but out of fear of people calling them gay or saying that, you know, you can't do that.
Fear and trauma. Yeah.
Kept them back. And a lot of those same people also stumbled into ballroom, found ballroom, and have now been able to show their talents and learn how to and do it without fear and with courage. So I didn't want to do that. And another thing I wanted to go back to with Sheree and going to Atlanta for Atlanta Housewives. Did you know that being part of this ensemble cast, that show was going to take off the way that it did?
No, none of us did. Not even the ladies that were the wives. Nobody had a clue. You know, it literally went like this. Someone reached out about shooting a pilot for the show, and it was going to be, you know, it was going to be like the Real Housewives of Orange County. Her name was Princess Banton. She was one of the founders of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And she reached out to the I think it was Nene Leakes, Kim Zolciak, Sheree Whitfield. And they shot the pilot, and she sold it to, you know, and Bravo was fascinated by the ladies, and or Andy Cohen or whoever. And that's literally how nobody knew what anybody was doing. You know, the girls were all beat, you know, they lived those fierce lifestyles, you know, the mansions and like that was real. It wasn't a joke. And that's literally how nobody knew. And I remember going on to the show. I didn't get paid a dime for the first, I don't know how many seasons. Because I didn't know what I was doing. This is nothing. I never went after television. Again, it was something I thought wasn't possible.
You were showing up.
I just showed up as myself.
Right.
I didn't shy. I did not, you know, become introverted when I saw a camera. I didn't get, you know, I just showed up as myself because I always thought who I was right, regardless of other people telling me that it wasn't right or society deeming that who I was wasn't right. Only thing I knew to do was to show up and be done, you know. And I remember on the first episode, I think it was the first episode, whichever episode that was, Sheree had the big birthday party and she left Nene off the guest list. I remember showing up. I had a long white coat on and a thigh-high blotted boot and this Captain Maladrino blouse. I remember like it was yesterday. And I remember hearing the producers on their walkie-talkies, whatever, saying, make sure you guys get Sheree's friend, get Sheree's friend, get Sheree's friend. And, you know, so, and that started it all. That turned into the people up top wanting to see more of me in the storylines and all of that. Again, me still being dumb, not knowing exactly what this is. Again, I'm just showing up. And later I became a fan favorite to the show.
Let me ask you about that. Not to cut, but let me ask you, as the show got, as you know, first, beyond the first couple, you know, as it got more and more popular, you know, it was the biggest show at that time, especially on Bravo. And it was getting so much attention. Did you, because I remember they said after the first season that a lot of people was reading the women saying that's not how Atlanta women lived and housewives or whatever it is. As the show got more popular everywhere, did you feel a responsibility as being one of the gay people from the community on the show? Like, did you ever feel like there was a weight on you to like present a certain way, to be a certain way, to, you understand what I'm saying? Like with all the,
you know what? I didn't feel that responsibility. I later learned that it was kind of an innate responsibility. I didn't, at that time, I did not feel, again, at that time, I just knew to do myself a service. And that was to show up as authentic as possible. That was all I ever knew how to do. In my mind, if I could walk out of my parents' house every day, go to school, go to high school, and hip hugger jeans, curly hair, you know, and lip gloss, and see my mama fall out and cry over that, I'll be damned if I not go and show up in the world the way I want to. And so that's what I did. It wasn't that I felt like, oh, I have to do this for my community. I had no idea in that at that time and in that moment that I was, you know, physically acting as an advocate for our community. I didn't know that. I later learned that, as people would approach me out in public and other people of color in the LGBTQ community. And so it felt good. It felt good. I felt it charged me even more to keep going. And fast forwarding, so, you know, again, I just showed up and became a fan favorite. Fast forwarding to Angie Cohen reaching out, offering me my own show, which was Fashion Queens. And
I was about to go into that next. Like,
listen, I was sitting in an insurance class with my sister Shannon Balenciaga and my other sister named Tia. We were sitting in the insurance class because we was like, y'all, let's go get our insurance license, girl. Let's just go see, girl. They make coins over there. I was sitting in the insurance class. I was on my second day because we did like one of those fast track courses. And I get a phone call, a 917 number. And, you know, when you're in entertainment in any type of way, if you see a 917 number or a 323 or a 310 or a 212,
New York or California,
you go take that call. So I stepped outside and this voice is like, hi, Miss Lawrence. I said, hi, who is this? it's Andy Cohen. So I thought it was one of my friends playing on the phone. And I was giving, don't stop playing on my phone. What's the tea? Who is this? He said, it's Andy Cohen. I said, well, if it's Andy, keep talking. Say something and make me know it's you. So I learned it was him. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. He's dying laughing at this point. He said, well, the ratings for the special that you and Derek J did called Real Hairstylists Tell All, that was on Bravo, it did record-breaking numbers. And I have no doubt in my mind that you would have a very successful show on our network, given the opportunity. And because of that, I have this idea for a show that I think you'll be great at. It will be a commentary show about pop culture and fashion. And I have in mind, he said, do you know Bevy Smith? I said, I've met her once or twice before, but I don't know her. He said, well, I have in mind Bevy Smith, and I think I want Derek J. I said, let's do it. And he said, okay. He said, so you'll be getting, somebody to contact you soon, but we're going to move on this pretty fast. I said, okay. So, honey, I never went back into the insurance class. I literally did not go back. I told Shannon to bring my certificate outside, and I never went back. And that show garnered so much attention, and it did incredible numbers for us to be three black, very specific individuals to come on at 11:30 p.m. on Sunday nights and crack 1 million viewers. When people have to get up and go to work Monday morning, it sent waves through the industry that way. This is possible, not only through the industry, but I feel like it gave this idea to so many people that are like me, that are like Derek J, that are like your curvy, busty Black woman that's very outspoken, Bevy Smith, that you have a place, and you deserve to be seen and you deserve to be heard. And I think because of that, I think that is the reason we had such a success on that show. And we ran for 3 seasons. And because of that show, Lee Daniels was a huge fan of the show. I didn't know. I met him in Los Angeles. I was sitting at Crustaceans, and he came over to my table. I didn't know who he was. He came over to my table and he said, hi, Miss Lawrence. I'm Lee Daniels. It's very nice to meet you. I'm a fan. I watch your show, Fashion Queens. I said, oh, thank you. I didn't know who he was. And he said, I'm also very good friends with Bevy Smith. Let her know that you met me. I said, okay, great. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much. So when he left, my girlfriend is like, bitch, that was Lee Daniels. I said, who is Lee Daniels? She said, girl, he did Precious, Empire. I said, oh no, Empire was just starting, I think. And I was like, oh wow. I said, okay, amazing. So I told Bevy, I said, Mom, I met Lee Daniels and And she's like, oh good. So one day I was in her dressing room. I can't remember the time span, but I was in her dressing room, and I went into an impromptu monologue, and I was mocking my brother Jussie Smollett and Taraji Henson on Empire. Bevy recorded it, and she sent it to Lee, and he laughed at it. And then he later came back and said, someone told me that Miss Lawrence can sing. And Bevy's like, oh my God, like a bird. And he said, have him to record something and send it to me. And I did. I went to my hotel room that night, and I recorded Sylvester, Mighty Real. And because I had gotten wind that he was thinking about doing a biopic. And so I did.
So you said, let me send my audition tape, and Judge didn't get.
You make me feel. Okay. So I sent it in. I sent it to him. I got back home that Monday, and I get a phone call, and it's Lee Daniels. And he's like, bitch, I didn't know you could sing like that, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then he tells me to hold on. He says, someone wants to speak to you. And then Lenny Kravitz gets on the phone, and Lenny Kravitz is like, I'm a fan. I love your voice. I watch your show, da-da-da-da. He said, then Lee gets back. He said, I'm going to do something with you. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm doing something with you. We'll talk soon. Fast forward, I am at the National Action Network Gala. I was speaking on a panel about dismantling homophobia in the Black community, which is Reverend Al Sharpton's organization. NAN is the acronym. And I saw Lee there when he was with Gabourey Sidibe and all that. He said, honey, he said, I think I want to put you on Empire. And I said, wow. I said, okay. It's always been hard for me to get excited about stuff. Again, going back to that imposter syndrome that I had as a child, and thinking that I didn't deserve, or that I wouldn't be welcome, that I wouldn't be welcomed in that type of space. So it's hard for me. It's always been, and it still is somewhat, to get excited about stuff. You know, I always move with caution, and I always put my best foot forward, because again, that imposter syndrome kicks in and it says that you don't deserve to be in this space. So bitch, you better turn it. And that I did. He followed up. He put me on the first episode of the second season of Empire, and he had me singing Sylvester Mighty Real on that episode. And it was one of the most watched episodes for that season. I got rave reviews, so much so that while he was in the process of developing the show Star, he reached out and said, I'm creating a role for you on Star. He said, you deserve to be on TV. And I was thoroughly impressed at what you did on Empire. And that is how my acting career literally got started. So my biggest note and message to everybody, anytime I go out and I do motivational speaking, what I learned, what my aha moment showed me that, you know, what I blocked for myself, which was I shied away, or I ostracized myself from my original passions. Sometimes God has to block it to bless it. And so I shied away from that. And then I honored and nurtured this other gift that I had been given as a hairstylist. And I gave it everything that I had. I became one of the most sought after hairstylists in Atlanta. But I wasn't selfish with that. I made sure that I taught everything that I knew. I was able to help literally 7 hairstylists become great hairstylists, help them with garnering a large clientele and setting them on the right track. And I gave everything that I could. And I believe it was because of that gift made room for me to come back to one of my original purposes. And so I tell people all the time, just stay on track, mind your business, nurture your gifts, and share your gifts. Don't be selfish with them. Whatever he gives you, you give it out. That is what is called being fruitful and multiplying. That is what being fruitful and multiplying is, and after a while, it became challenging to try to juggle both, still being a prominent figure in the beauty industry, being a salon owner and hairstylist, that I came to a crossroads where I had to decide, to retire or no longer continue in the entertainment industry. And so I prayed really, really long and hard. It was a very painful decision to make because, it was the thing that gave me everything that I had, that I built for myself. I was able to purchase a home at the age of 24 years old. Everything that society said that I wouldn't be able to have because of who I was able to get because of the beauty industry, because I got into it and I built my career up myself. And so to come to this crossroad 20 years later, and I have to decide whether or not to give this thing up that I feel like I am in total control of, nobody could ever take from me, to go over here. It was a very dark 2-year decision that I had to make. I was very dark. And it wasn't until my sister, Raquel Henry, I talked to her about it, and she said, sis, you got to go and pray. She said, you have to pray, and you got to be still, and you got to wait on him to tell you what to do. And when you pray, just leave it all there. And you know that old saying, leave it all at the altar. And I did that. That same night, and when I talked to my sister, I did that. I came home, I got on my knees, I cut everything off. I just lit candles, and I just had a moment with him. And 2 months later, I swear to you not, 2 months later, I was sitting in a restaurant with my grandmother. I call her my grandmother. A lot of people might know her. But anyway, I was sitting at a restaurant and this woman stops by my booth and she puts her hand on my shoulder and she says to me, "Stop stressing over that salon." And so I'm looking at her, I'm thinking she might have been a client of my salon. Maybe she was a client of one of my stylists and she might have heard me and they're going off or, frustrated. And I said, "Are you a client of mine?" She said, "No." She said, "God just told me to tell you to let it go. You're okay." That had never, ever, ever happened to me. And I grew up in church. All that had never happened to me before. You hear it all the time, like, "Oh, God sent somebody, da, 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 da." I ain't gonna lie, I always thought that was just what people said because that was the popular thing to say when you're talking about spirituality. But it happened to me. And that was the moment that I said, okay, here it is. It's time to cross over. And I came home and I started writing my letters. I wrote a letter to my clients and I wrote a letter to my staff. I have never cried that much in my life. And that was me letting it out. And what God showed me was you did everything you were supposed to do. You gave back, you nurtured your gifts, and you gave me all the glory. And because of that, I was able to move on. And that's when everything just kind of took off. And then I felt more of an authority of what it was that I was doing in this realm of entertainment.
You should lots of times when we're doing things, we don't really give ourselves the flowers while it's happening because we're always looking for the next shoe to drop or something to happen. But you should, if you really think about it, from how you entered into ballroom by meeting Raquel of all people to ending up in Housewives of Atlanta, from Fashion Queens to Empire to 3 seasons also on Star as Miss Bruce. You should be able to give yourself the flowers. You've been part of groundbreaking things, record-breaking. Remember when Empire remember that first season blew every show out the water. It was unexpected. As you remember, they didn't even do a lot of promotion for the show. And it knocked, I think it was numbers similar to when they had
it's still to date, I think, is one of the most successful shows that has taken place because you know what it was. Empire came along during a time when they had stopped doing scripted television because the writers did that big strike in Hollywood
in 2008. Right, it was years of that. They were missing,
and that's how reality TV got started because you didn't need writers for reality TV. That's how reality TV was able to take its space, and so Empire came. It was one of the shows and creations that brought scripted television back. And
also the return of a primetime night soap, which was gone for so long.
100%.
And he took so many tropes from like Dynasty and Dallas and all that made the show so popular. When he offered you Miss Bruce, was there a part as you were doing, because you had some really, really good scenes on that show, did you ever have to study to come across not as Miss Lawrence, but as Miss Bruce, so people can be able to see the parallels and the different, you know what I'm saying? Like, what did you do to that?
So you know what, there were quite a few people that I drew from when Lee was creating this character. And I helped in that process in terms of what the character looked like and da 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 da. So I always first go to my own experiences, right? Because as an actor, one of your jobs is to see if you can find the similarities in yourself and the character, where you and the character relate. So I started there. Obviously, Miss Bruce was a hairstylist. Okay, that was easy. So Miss Bruce was also best friend and confidant to Carlotta Brown, who was Queen Latifah. I said, well, all of my best friends have always been older than me and been women. So then we talk about the aesthetics of the show. You know, we weren't rich, we weren't fab. I knew what that looked like too. Being, you know, I wasn't always fab. You know, I dibbled and dabbed around trying to figure out, you know, the proper imagery for myself. And I remember one of the first people that I ever worked for as an assistant when I was a hairstylist, her name was Dee Dee. She had this gold tooth. And I was like, ooh, a gold tooth. So that's what a gold tooth reference came from. You know, I thought about a lot of people. One of our ballroom family members. I don't know what house Foxy might have used to be in, but Foxy. I don't know if you know Foxy, the one, she's very famous for being the one that said, "I've been waiting on you at the door." You remember her?
I never, yeah, I know you're talking about, yeah,
So
but
she
I
was
never
down
knew.
here in Atlanta.
Okay,
She was
got
a
you.
down south girl. She was a hairstylist, and Foxy was always dressed very uh, extravagant. She was always in a fur coat, but it was in a very round away hood type of way. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But fab in her own right. And I
Right.
felt like, okay, let me marry all of these experiences that I've had and let me apply them to Miss Bruce, and then plug in Miss Bruce's experiences with the three young ladies, the group, and let's see. And that is how the magic all came.
Well, I for one, I'm glad I got you here now, was pissed off when the show was canceled.
Yeah.
I was pissed off because the season finale was so good in season 3. And then we was promised, I don't know, you remember, like a follow-up. Is there any possibility that's ever going to happen, or is that just is in TV land? Because that was
We are, you know, we have no idea. I have no idea. And my former castmates, some of them, a lot of them I still talk to now.
Mhm.
We don't know. You know, Hollywood is funny. You know,
Mhm.
the you know, you're up against show schedules. You're up against the everybody's schedules. People like Queen Latifah, she's mama stay busy. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of moving parts when it comes to that. It was very unfortunate that, you know, it got canceled. We loved it. We
Mhm.
developed a real family doing that show. It never felt like work. I have a gut feeling that there is going to be some type of follow up.
You do.
There have been rumors. I hear the same rumors everybody else here. I'm not privy to early information. I know a lot of people think that we are, but that's not the case. But I have heard rumors from reliable sources.
Mhm.
But I guess the only question now is when.
Mhm.
You know, so we don't know.
And one more thing about your acting career, you also was in the Billie Holiday.
Yeah.
How did that opportunity come about?
That came from me doing my thing on Star. And
Mhm.
but this time it was different, right? Because your Empire and Star lead just kind of called me. It was like, this yours. Billie Holiday, I had to audition. I had to go through a couple of rounds of auditioning. I got the script, I read through it, and I was gagging. I didn't know. Of course, I knew who Billie Holiday was. I knew some of her music, but I didn't know her story. I
Mhm.
definitely did not know that there was a Miss Freddie that was around. That there was somebody like me that was gender nonconforming, that, you know, put up resist and rebelled against societal norms and rebelled against the police. And I had no idea that there was a Miss Freddie around in the 40s and the 50s. And once I learned more about him, there wasn't a lot of information about Miss Freddie, which to me was a lot of information.
Mhm.
So, and I say that because the fact that the only reason we knew Miss Freddie existed was because as the research team was gathering all of the information for the movie, they learned that Billie wrote about her best friend, Miss Freddie. And he was the one that dressed her, put her in all her gowns, and, you know, they did drugs together. That was her sister, her brother. And so that's the only way we knew about Miss Freddie. There were no photos, you know. And so that said a lot. That said enough for me to become loud about who Miss Freddie was, and for Lee to become loud about who Miss Freddie was. And that was one of the most proud. I think that I felt the most proud during doing playing that role because I felt like I was able to give justice to someone who was a real trailblazer that you never got to hear about. You know what I mean? And so, and it also gave me true testament, whether you're here or not or gone, delay is still not denial, right? Mm-hmm. Because at least even in his eternal death, his name got to be spoken, you know? And I feel like that's what I feel like that was justice, you know? So I felt really, really good about that. That was a very, very hard movie to do. That was a very hard role to do because you had to really feel the energy of that era. You had to really feel what Billy went through. And you had to feel what it was like to be around during those times, you know? So it took a lot of studying. It took a lot of research. And, you know, we did it. Unfortunately, the movie did really well. Mm-hmm. But we were sideswiped by COVID, you know? Right. We were supposed to premiere in movie theaters. We were supposed to do the whole Cannes Film Festival and all of the things. And boom, here come Miss Corona, honey. Mama came and said, no, bitch, I'm walking too. And so, you know, but it served its purpose. It served its purpose. And kudos to my sister, Andra Day, for her first acting role.
And did an amazing job.
And got her, went and snatched her a Golden Globe. First time around, you know what I mean? Oscar nominated, all of that. So it served its purpose. And if nothing else, the friendships and the kinship that I was able to get from that experience, you know, you can't pay for that. My brother, Tyler Williams, I have management to this day because of Tyler Williams. Because for a long time, people don't know this, I could not secure management. I still don't have an agent because I was always met with, you know, I was unusual talent. And we don't really know what the sell would be. We don't know what the pitch would be. So yeah, you know, regardless of all the shows I had been on, regardless of my following, I would go to the top talent agencies, and that is what I would be met with every single time. And it wasn't until I worked on United States versus Billie Holiday that Tyler Williams, we were sitting backstage, you know, in between takes, and we were just talking. And he's like, you know, who reps you or whatever? I was like, oh, I don't have an agent. I said, I have an attorney, but I don't have like an agent, or I don't have any of that. He was like, what? I was like, no. And so I told him my story. He was like, wow. He took it upon himself to reach out to his team of people. And he told them, and I had no idea he was doing this. He told them my story, and he told them that he thinks that I would be a real jewel and asset to their roster of people. And he texted me the following morning. He said, I hope you don't mind, but it didn't sit well with me that you didn't have proper representation. Basically, I think it's effed up. And he said, so I reached out to my team, and they would love to have a conversation with you. That is literally how I was able to get proper
management,
representation, and management. Still don't have an agent yet, but you know, proper representation. And so not to jump, but the work that I do, my social advocate work, I've made it my business to, again, bridge the gap between the Black queer community, or LGBTQ community, and the Black straight community. Because of my experiences, I was able to live a very nice life and build a really nice life for myself because I was able to be in service to Black women first. Right. Fast forward to my encounter with Barack Obama. That's another story. My encounter with Barack Obama and how he embraced me and all this type of stuff, and invited me to the White House twice. And then fast forward to me doing this movie, and this straight man sees me and sees my talent and acknowledges that I deserve everything that they have, meaning my straight counterparts have. And he took it upon himself and took the liberty of making sure that I get that. I want all of my brothers and sisters that feel like, you know, the entire straight community or the heterosexual community is completely against us, because that is not the case. That is not the case. And so I understand where we fall short on both parts, on both sides, and because I know the language of both sides. And so that's why I've made it my mission to work on bridging the gap. Because once that is done, and once we get to this mutual understanding and respect for one another, the world better be very, very scared.
Well, speaking of bridging the gap, the reason why we're here, the Purpose Ball, Bridging the Gap, Mother's Day weekend in Atlanta, right before the heels of Anarchy, Alpha Omega.
Oh, yes.
You dropped this, sent the people in an uproar. Femme Queen Face, $20,000. I believe he's bringing like a queen. $10,000 runway, I believe. Am I correct?
$10,000 runway, $10,000 realness, $5,000 open to all performance, $2,000 women's phase, $2,000 drag space, $1,000 butch queen phase, $1,000 male figure best dress, $1,000 female figure best dress, $1,000 mother versus mother, non-ballroom mother versus mother best dress.
I actually love that I love that category because there's a lot of people in the community that moms do support, do come, love to see their children.
That's why we bridge the gap.
I love that category.
I have GNC, gender non-conforming best dress for $500, and I also have Sex Siren, both male and female figure, both $1,000 each. And I have best Kiki scene house, like grandma
for $1,000.
$4,000 because I wanted to include them as well in bridging the gap. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to it. How did this come about?
So going back to my social advocate work, I started this movement or this I don't know what you call it, but it's called Plated Purpose. Mm-hmm. And it's a dinner series that I started. It was originally called The Family Table. And I did the first one the year before last, and I did it with Ciroc. Ciroc was my partner on that. And it was during that time that I thought about this and thought to do it. It was during that time when you had that whole big inflamed homophobic moment with DaBaby and all the stuff with Dave Chappelle and all that type of stuff. And then everybody's screaming, cancel, 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 cancel. And I talked to a few of my friends. I'm like, we got to do something. I remember talking to, April Ryan, our White House correspondent. I talked to April and I said, April, I said, it's time for a family meeting. I said, because we can't afford to become even further divided as Black people. And that just kept sticking with me. Family meeting. And then I was trying to figure out what can I do. One of my dear friends was like, why don't you, I kept complaining to her. I'm like, this shit is so wrong. Like, I don't necessarily want DaBaby canceled, but I want him to understand how damaging, his actions could be, because it's all out of ignorance. It is written, we will perish for the lack of knowledge. But if we are not doing our part to educate and matriculate on both sides, then we are no better than they are. Mm-hmm. And so, so my girlfriend is like, well, what are you going to do about it? You got to do something. I said, I know, I just don't know what to do. So I pay attention to every year we have Pride Month during June. And you have all of these big Pride celebrations. And you see all of these huge sponsors, from Svedka vodka to Smirnoff, Grey Goose, you name it. And of course, all of the Fortune 500 companies that support Pride Month and dump tons of money into Pride Month in June to say that they offered something, to say that they were inclusive. But if you take inventory to what that looks like, we are very far and few between as Black LGBTQ people. And that's never set well with me. It's never set well with me because it's a known fact that it is because of women of color that's a part of the LGBTQ community is the reason that we get to be as gay and as free as we are now. It's women of color, and it's also, just gay people of color, period, LGBTQ people of color, period. I spoke of Miss Freddie. Going all the way back to slavery, I learned after doing a lot of reading about what it is that I'm doing, I learned of a former slave named William Dorsey Swan, who was a drag queen, who was born into slavery. So we go all the way back. We go all the way back, and we get to be as gay as we are, as Black as we are, because of Black LGBTQ people. And when I look and I take inventory of Pride Month, and I see what happens, it bothered me. And so I said, well, you know what? If there can be big liquor sponsors that sponsor predominantly white-led LGBTQ activations for Pride Month, why do we not have any of that stuff for Black Pride? And so I said, you know what, let me reach out to Ciroc, because it's Black founded. Let me see if our Black straight counterparts will show up for us, for our Black Pride, right? And so it just so happens that I'm friends with, and I've known the former head of marketing or president of marketing for Ciroc for years. Her name is Ingrid Best. And I literally sent a text message, and I everything I just said, I said it there. And I said, I would love your support in starting something that could really be a movement. And she said yes. And that is how it started. I did not know what I was doing. And the whole thing turned, at first we contemplated on doing a big party or whatever. And we were like, why don't we just do a dinner? And so that is when I came up with the family table, and they did everything. They sponsored it. Again, I didn't make money from this. This was a passion project. And the way I curated it, I had a certain number of Black LGBTQ people at the dinner table with a certain number of Black straight people. And it wasn't about pointing fingers. It wasn't that. What it was designed to do, and what it does, is it shows just through conversation and through communing how much more we are alike than we are different. Relationships were formed, new bonds were formed at that dinner. And I had so much support. Andrew Day came, my brother Kenny Burns, Patrick Ian Polk, countless of executives from BET to, Target to Amazon, you name it. And so I had Raquel, my sister, to bless the food. I didn't start off and say, oh, here is my trans sister I said, to bless the food, I have my sister here, Raquel. She blessed the food. I then spoke, midway's dinner, and then I had my mother / mentor, Bevy Smith, to do the unity toast. And so the idea was to have every type of person from both sides to participate and to do something in this dinner. And it was so beautiful, so much so that one of the executives of BET was there, and she asked me to do one for them. And I originally was supposed to do it for the Soul Train Awards that weekend, but we didn't do it then. And she reached out and she said, listen, whenever you want to do it, we want to pay for it. Just put it all together, send me an invoice, da-da-da-da. So I did that, and I was like, okay, so we on to something. So then I'm like, okay, so now this could turn in, this is now gonna have to end up, I have to make this right and do it the right way, make it a business, da-da-da-da. And so my attorney is like, well, you don't have the family table trademark. I'm like, oh, yeah, you do have to do that. So I tried to, they're like, no, you can't do it. It's too, you can't, they looked it up, couldn't do it. So I had to come up with another name. And so I came up with Plated Purpose, because we are there communing together for a purpose. And so that's how I came up with Plated Purpose. And at that dinner, when I did Plated Purpose, I decided to do it. I originally was going to do it during Black History Month. And then I said, well, no, you know what? I think I should make this dinner installment about Black women of all lines. So that means my Black straight women, my Black trans women, drag, lesbian, you name it. And so that's what I did. And I said I was going to do it during during Women's History Month. But then I learned that Mary J. Blige was doing her first ever Strength of a Woman Festival Mother's Day weekend. This was last year. And I said, oh, wow, maybe I should do it during that weekend, because I could probably get more press around it, da, 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 da. And so I am friends with one of her business partners. And I reached out, I said, would y'all mind if I did my dinner and I did it in conjunction with the festival? I don't need you all to pay for anything. I already have a sponsor. And they said yes. She asked Mary and Mary said yes. And Mary came to the dinner. Slick Rick came by the dinner. Again, it was a room full of really good people that I know. And I'm very intentional about the guest list. I don't want a room full of people, that know each other and people that are just there because they'll go to an opening of an envelope. I want people there that are allies, and I want people that are lovers of the LGBTQ community, but not necessarily be allies, because you want to get people to broaden their perspective and to be, properly matriculated on who we are and vice versa. And so I need people that will go and spread the message so that way we can get more work done. And that is exactly what has happened. So by Mary coming to the dinner and it being a huge success, I had my niece, Mariah Moore, who's a very poignant trans activist. She's a brilliant girl. I had her to come and speak. I also had Emil Wilbekin to come and speak. And I had one of my chosen mothers, Sherry, who's a straight woman, to lead us in prayer. So again, I want somebody from every walk to participate in the dinner. And everybody loved it so much. BET loved it so much so that they've now started an LGBTQ honors thing that they did. They just did one called Black and Iconic, and they honored my niece Mariah Moore there. And so this year for Strength of a Woman Festival, Mary's team reached out and they said, we really love what you did last year. This year, we would like for you to, or this was last year when they came to me, they said, next year, we think we know you're a part of ballroom, and, that's obviously something that's, people are becoming more and more aware of it. So we think we want to do a ball. Would you be interested in doing a ball for us? And I said, oh my God, I would love to. And so that is the inception of the Purpose Ball.
A lot of people been asking, so we're going to go through the basics of ballroom. How much is the ball?
How much to get in?
To get in.
It's $45 for your basic ticket, and then $60 for the VIP line.
Okay. The place at the bank, how many people does this place hold?
Oh my God. I was told anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000.
Okay.
It's a very spacious venue.
Okay.
It's a very spacious venue. Yeah.
I know you've been inundated with these questions.
Yeah.
Table. How does a house purchase a table, receive a table? How does that go?
The tables are complimentary to, I got to wipe my hair. Y'all got to excuse me. The tables are complimentary to all ballroom houses. And let me say this. I'm sorry, this is so ghetto, and I have to. Let me say this. Every house has a table. I know originally I was supposed to, at your ball, at the Alpha and Omega ball, at the Ballroom Throwbacks ball, we were supposed to pull names, but that was I announced that prior to me learning exactly how many sections/tables the venue had. And once I learned that number, I said, oh, well, every house will get a table then. So I know I've been getting hit up a lot. I know everybody's been, hitting Harold up and Dante and is there a table? Everybody has a table.
So I guess soon you will be releasing how that will go for everyone.
Exactly. We're still trying to work that out, right? Another thing, I chose not to charge for the tables, or I asked Live Nation and Strength of a Woman team to let's not charge for the tables. Because of the time frame in which we announced, and also, you know, I felt like, why not? If this is to acknowledge and to, you know, acknowledge and affirm this community, let's give the houses a table. And they were fine with it. They said, okay, no problem. So that is how the tables became complimentary. Now, I will say I have been wrecking my brain trying to figure out the placement and all that type of stuff. What I can guarantee is that every house has a table.
Have a table. Okay.
Every house has a table. That you don't have to worry about that. Every active house has a table. Let me clarify. Every active house has a table. Another question that I have been hearing a lot is, why Femme Queen Face for $20,000? Or why is that the grand prize again? So because this ball to me will serve as a history-making ball, I believe that you should pay homage to the roots in which something was started. It was started on the backs of our Black femme queens, or this, you know, nowadays, now we say trans women, or, you know, gender fluid people, or whatever case it be. It was founded on the backs of the mothers, excuse me, of ballroom. And since we're doing this ball on Mother's Day, it was only befitting to make the grand prize Femme Queen Face. Also because that was the very first category that I ever saw when I went to a ball. And so that is a part of, you know, the give back. And what I will say is that the goal is for this to become an annual thing. And next year, there will be another category that will be a huge, huge grand prize. That is something that the Strength of a Woman team and Live Nation is adamant about, that they want this to be successful because they want it to keep going. And so if we show up and do our thing and be on our best behavior, do our best competing, you know, this is the start to many. This is not a one and done.
So that if the inaugural, which I have no doubt is a success, this will be annual, basically.
Oh, it's all. Gotcha. They're already talking about it.
Okay. So, obviously, I was going to ask you what category you look forward to the most, but I think that's pretty evident.
No, I'm looking for. I was very specific about the categories that I wanted. Right. We know Femme Queen Face. That's one of the, you know, the big. Always been one of the big. But also realness has always been one of the big categories, right?
And it's team realness that night. So you're looking for the epitomes, the best of the best to come out here and obviously go, okay.
Right, because again, that is what ballroom was founded on. That, you know, and of course I had to have a fashion moment. I wanted the foot and eyewear. I love foot and eyewear. And I chose foot and eyewear for one of the grand prizes for $5,000 because Mary is known for her footwear. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, let's do this. And so on and so forth. And then once I got the big ones out of the way, I said, okay, now I got to make sure I at least try to satisfy everybody. You know, so that is when I said, okay, let's do best dress. But instead of the male figure and the female figure having to battle for the cash, that each one get their own cash, you know, and so on and so forth. So that's how I curated the category list.
How will the judges be chosen?
So for the Femme Queen Face category, it will be a non-ballroom panel because I don't want anybody thinking that that ballroom politics played a role in who is the winner. I am not a person that is about that. I'm not one for cheating or setting something up. I'm not. And so to dispel all of that and to get rid of all of those ideas, I'm not having a ballroom panel for that category. I'm leaning towards not having a ballroom panel for that category. And I know a lot of people, something that, you know, people question when you have a non-ballroom panel is, well, how will they know how to judge? Well, I have some of them I've already talked to. They've already been looking at tapes and stuff, but they will be educated on what face is, the 5 elements, what to look for in the 5 elements. When you get to a situation where both women are drop dead gorgeous, which I'm sure that will be the case because all of the girls are lovely, right? Then how do you judge? Then you break it down on the overall effect. Then you break it down on who is captivating you the most. So it will be extremely fair. It will be extremely fair. And there can only be one winner. It can't be but one winner.
Will the category be early in the night?
I haven't decided on the placement just yet, only because of a lot of the celebrities that they are working on trying to get to come and be judges and stuff. It's a whole scheduling thing. So that part I do not know yet. We have a tentative run of show, but that could change. As of now, I have it right in the middle. But again, that could change because if Mary decides, oh, I got to get in early, I'm tired, or you just never know. But we'll know. We will definitely know, well enough in advance.
Well, you already know we'll go live before then to ask category-related questions, obviously. And last thing, that way people can know. Is there anything else that you would like them to know in regards to you, the event that you obviously are putting so much into? Anything that you would like them to know before we get off this live?
I would implore, and I want everybody to know that this is a ticketed event. So please go to the link, the ticket link. It's in my bio. It's on the event page on Facebook, and purchase your ticket. They have not said yet whether or not they will allow you to pay at the door. I was told no. Again, it's a Live Nation event. They go based off of ticket sales. So they are a ticket-driven company or whatever. And so I'm telling people to please go online and purchase your ticket. I will also say that in the coming weeks, we're going to do an even bigger marketing push because again, we're bridging the gap. So you will see, your heterosexual brothers and sisters there. And so once they get the word out that this is happening, everybody's fascinated with ballroom now. I don't want all the tickets to get gone and all the ballroom people ain't got theirs. So go ahead and get your tickets ASAP.
I will put the event description in the link so that way people can be able to do that.
Thank you.
Also, because I don't want to, a lot of people on YouTube I want to read some of the comments for you.
Okay.
A lot of people say they're here for this. They love this. Great advice. I never heard it this way. Latrice Jackson from Louisville, Kentucky said, please tell Ms. Lawrence that I am 24 years old and been gender fluid since the age of 13. Thank you for being one of the first representations on television for me. You gave me so much hope in many dark places in my life. Salute to you and everything you do.
Oh, thank you, Latrice. Thank you so much. And please keep going. Please keep going. Know that you have a place, honey, in this world.
I hope you hear that, Latrice. Dana Magnifique says, love us so much. Good evening, everyone. Steve said, Miss Lawrence, please tell Ann I love her. This is Steve from DC.
Yes, Steve, the grandma. Child, I'm trying to get that old lady out, child. I'm trying to get her to the function, child. She talking, girl, I'm not coming nowhere near that thing. I'm trying my best, Steve.
You talking about Ann Laura? Ann?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Darren Mohican said, Miss Lawrence, I met you years ago at a restaurant. You were so gracious. I really appreciated that. Most celebrities are not the best to meet. First impressions are everything to me.
Thank you. I appreciate
that.
We
all pissed when Star got canceled, the way they sprayed that wedding. I really hope they revive Fashion Queens. It would be great to see you and Derek again. Baby, this ball's about to be fire. Preach. I love this. This is like a conversation. I love how this is going. And the last one on here, I'm skimming through. Miss Lawrence looked like fish.
Hello. That's the gender non-conforming part.
Real quick before we get off, this is a sideline to everything. As you know, like you said, you was gender fluid. That, like you said, it wasn't popular. It wasn't really a name, and all those things for many years. You know, because of that, you was, you know, I don't want to say forced, but you had to walk female figure categories, things like that. How do you feel now that within the last couple of years, now there is, you know, gender non-conforming categories, and especially like for best dress and like face? How do you feel about that?
I'm excited, right? Because I think it's long overdue. And yes, and you know, my entire ballroom career, there was no such thing. I was forced to walk female figure, and I didn't mind. I still love it, you know. But it's very telling of how much we've grown. I think it's necessary because if we are a community and a culture of people that says ballroom is a place for you to become that thing that the world and society tells you you can't be, then why don't we, or why didn't we allow people to show up as themselves, right? And it's okay. Now we've corrected that, and now we do have gender fluid or gender nonconforming categories, and I am very, very proud of that. However, I gotta say this to my gender nonconforming brothers and sisters: just because you are gender nonconforming, you still have to show up and present the category the way the category should go. If it's gender nonconforming face, you should have gender nonconforming face. If it's gender nonconforming best dress, you should be best dress. You don't get a pass because you are gender nonconforming.
You just got to put that on there because you're saying, you know, let's be right on this category like every other one.
Let's be right on this category. Well, no, based on what I've seen, because I've seen some of the people that'll come out and will walk GNC, whether it's face or fashion, and it's just not on.
I think that, you want to know why? I think that for ballroom, I think it needs to be a clear definition of what is being judged. How are we judging this category?
Let me ask you this, Caesar. How do you judge face?
Do they have face? Right. That's, of course, I'm with you, but I think that, but I'm speaking on a broader spectrum. I do feel like some people, I don't want to say confused, but maybe some people, if you're saying you're gender non-conforming, like for me, it's very tough for me if I see you with a beard and then the gloss and I'm judging. I'm like, okay, is there face there? You understand what I'm saying? I think like there's some lines that I think it needs to be explained more so people can have a clear definition. So when they walk, it can be judged properly. That's what I feel.
Got it. Okay. So that's something I think we got to work on. You know what I mean? Right. That's something I think we collectively have to work on.
And, you know, there's a few gender nonconforming, especially from like, I've been doing this a long time along with you, you know, not a lot, but a few that's been doing this a long time. So
my sister Christian, my sister at the time when I met her, and she doesn't mind me saying it, Juan or London, when she was Juan back then, when she was in Escada, those were the ones that I looked up to. Like, you know, especially Christian and London. Oh, and Thaddeus.
And Thaddeus, of course, for years, right?
And Thaddeus, you know, so it's been around forever. And I've pulled to the side several GNC. I pulled to the side several GNC walkers that were walking best dressed, and I'm like, listen. And I've told them, I want you to go and I want you to look up Thaddeus. You can, if you know, look up my stuff, look up Christian. So I've given. They're not even in my house. I don't know who they are, but I know they are so disappointed, distraught when they get chopped. And so I know what didn't happen for me, and no one told me. I had to learn on my own the hard way of how to do this thing. And so I make sure if I see it, I'm like, okay, here's just some tools to put in your back pocket or in your purse. Like, go study this, go study that. You know, make sure your clothes and everything is pristine and da 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 da. So yeah, I think a lot of the leaders in ballroom, we have to do a better job at, you know, if you're gonna chop, let's stop always chopping without an explanation. You know, especially if it was a chop on technicalities.
Right. And a lot of people don't understand the technicalities on why they were chopped.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. This Ms. Lawrence, it was amazing having you on. Honestly, I feel like besides the ball, we need another follow-up because I feel like you're just a plethora of information and of, just history, just period, and a lot of lessons that people can learn. Just want to let you know.
Thank you. I would love to. I'm here anytime you need me.
The Purpose Ball, everyone, is Mother's Day weekend. It's a month and a half away. Let's get on that. I will be posting the links by tomorrow morning so you guys can go to the event page and get your tickets. The Purpose Bowl, Bridging the Gap, it's going to be a big thing. Y'all already know the money will be there. Ms. Lawrence and company will be getting back to you within hopefully next week or two about tables and more information. So please stay tuned. Thank you so much, Ms. Lawrence. And you already know it's going to be a great event.
It's going to be good. Thank you so much, Caesar, for doing this. I really appreciate it.
I got you.
All right. I'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye. Okay, bye-bye.